I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lucy.
Welcome to another Cameo episode. These very short episodes will be slotted in between the other ones and will cover people who made a fleeting yet tantalizing appearance in other episodes. We don't always have a lot of information about them, so they can't have a full episode of their own, but they're too interesting to abandon completely, and they fill in the gaps and enable us to create as full a picture of the era as we can. And today...
Giovanni de Gigli. Giovanni Gigli.
It looks like Gigli. Sounds like Gigli.
Yes. Well, we couldn't decide last time whether we wanted to go with Gigli or Gigli, but we'll go with Gigli.
Gigli.
Although it should be Gigli. And we came across the Gigli family in Castellesi's episode.
Castellesi. I love it when we do Italian episodes, just so I can listen to you pronounce everything.
Overpronounce it, yeah.
I like it.
We're going to do two of them, so it's a double bill. So today Giovanni and the next time Silvestro.
Ooh.
And they're cousins.
Okay.
Giovanni was born about 1434 in Bruges. And his immediate family were living in a Lucchese enclave there. So merchants from Lucca in what is now Italy. And we come across Lucca in our Patreon episode being regularly laid waste by Florence.
Yes.
And the Gigli family were a big name in Lucca. And there were merchant Giglis all over Europe. Sorry.
I'm just imagining people made out of Jell-O now. As they walk, everything jiggles.
Well, we can go with Gigli if you prefer, but I quite like Gigli. And I like that image. His father had dealings with England. Can't say the name of my own country. His father had dealings with England, so Giovanni may have spent part of his childhood here. And even at a very young age, he was seen as intelligent. So he was picked out as being exceptionally intelligent. It seems likely that he was tonsured, as he had his hair cut, like a monk, and ordained acolyte, since this, among other things, would have given him the right to hold ecclesiastical lands. And I got the impression...
They did it just for the lands?
Well, possibly. But it was something that was done in case he should decide to go on for a religious career. It wasn't necessarily the first step.
Oh.
Of that actually absolutely decided that that's what he'd do.
I just assumed the family had to put somebody to cover their sins.
Maybe that's what he was there for, but he seems to have studied in Bologna and Oxford, and he gained a doctorate in civil war in Lucca. I really like that. They seem to travel all over Europe studying, which sounds lovely.
That would be awesome.
In the 1460s, Giovanni accompanied Cardinal Marco Barbo to Hungary, and the cardinal was traipsing around the eastern countries trying to drum up some sort of solidarity in the face of the Ottoman expansion. So we can add that to our list of people desperately trying to do something that never gets done.
Never got done. They were so lucky. They were so lucky.
They were. They didn't deserve that luck, really.
No, they really didn't. Not in this case. You did everything wrong and somehow you came out of it unscathed. I don't know how. Yeah.
1st of April 1476, Giovanni was sent to England as papal nuncio and the collector of Peter's pence in England. And the following year he became a denizen, which enabled him to hold ecclesiastical and state office in England. I listened to one of our episodes when we mentioned someone becoming a denizen, and we said, I wonder what the difference between being a denizen and a citizen is. And one of us said, I'll look it up. Never happened.
Sorry. We have a lot on our plate.
I have to trawl through at some point and jot down all the things we say we'll look at.
We'll do that, and we'll post things on our website. Sorry.
Actually, the website's up to date. But
even with the little things that we say we're going to put up there and we don't. I've noticed a couple.
Possibly not. The fact that he was offered this so soon shows that he must already have been in there with Edward IV. Because they don't just chuck out denizens to anyone who crosses the border.
No, in fact, usually it costs them a lot of money and many years and a whole bunch of bureaucracy to get that.
And knowing the right people.
That just makes it go faster. You still probably have to pay money.
He must have known a lot of the right people. But also, he must have been doing a good job since the Pope then threw in Wales as well. So he was to collect the Peter's pence in Wales.
Wow.
And he'd already resolved a dispute between the papal treasurer and our old friend Abbot Sante of Abingdon.
Ooh. It's funny how these people pop up everywhere, hey?
Yes, I know. He's a one, isn't he?
Yes. He's another one that just goes, oh, here I am. He's like that gopher game.
And this was to do with the sale of papal indulgences in England, printed by Caxton.
Caxton.
It's all coming together. The Pope intended the money to go to form a Christian fleet to fight off the Ottomans.
Wait a second. When did he become a denizen?
1476.
Huh. I wonder if he's one of the people that... Well, I'm still in the middle of researching Margaret of Burgundy, but she would send people with, like, her own recommendation. And I wonder if that paved the way for him to get the denizenship. As if she did that.
It would have done at this time.
Yeah, because William Caxton definitely did. She sent him there. He was her printer. Interesting.
Well,
I'll see if I can find him. I've still got 2 books to read. You never know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what this dispute was about. I don't think there was any indication that the money was resting in Abbot Sante's account. But anyway, Giovanni sorted it out. 1477, Giovanni gained his first benefice, St George's in Southwark. He may well have gained this as a thank you from the king for resolving the Sante case. Ecclesiastical benefices were used as a way of rewarding people with very little cost to the king. So
yeah.
Handy.
Yes. I'm going to make everybody else pay you money.
Yes. But you're going to thank me because I've just given it to you.
Yes.
April 1479, Giovanni was in Rome along with Abbot Sante, and he was representing the king, King Edward, seeking peace terms from the Pope between England and France.
No wonder Sante was so loyal to the Yorkists. That makes more sense now. If he was chosen to go represent him in Rome, then he must have felt quite important and been well rewarded by the Yorks.
Yes.
That brings some things into perspective.
The more we do, the more
these Cameo.
perspective we get.
Yeah.
Yes. I do. I notice not so many people, I don't know if not so many people listen to them or not so many people download them, maybe because you can listen to them in one go, so you don't bother downloading them. But yeah, I find all sorts of things fall into place when we do this Cameo, and you think, oh, it's him.
Yeah.
The Pope dismissed them, unfortunately, saying that there wasn't a hope in hell for peace between France and England.
He was a realist.
Yes. But just before Giovanni left for Rome, he was made Canon of St Paul's. So,
Which St. Paul's?
St Paul's Cathedral, London.
Okay.
So why did Giovanni get so much so quickly when he came to England? Because he'd been in England for 3 years and he's Canon of St Paul's. I mean, that's ridiculous. One of the main reasons was his humanist education. He spoke Greek. He knew about rhetoric and that.
And that wasn't a big thing yet in England, so it would have been, wow, so impressive.
Yeah, and Edward wanted it to be a big thing. He'd been to the Burgundian court.
Yes.
He knew about it, but we hadn't got it yet.
No.
So he was quite keen on people like Giovanni. In 1480, Edward IV took the Knights of St John of Rhodes under his protection. However, when the Turks turned up on Rhodes, Edward was next to useless. The Pope was pushing for aid to save Rhodes, and it was up to Giovanni to make this happen in England.
Oh.
He made a passionate speech in St Paul's, pleading for financial aid to fight the Turks. So passionate, in fact, he had tears pouring down his face. They did cry a lot more in those days.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if a politician were to make a speech now in floods of tears, you'd think,
are you okay?
yeah, this person's having a breakdown or something. But it was much more usual.
Yeah, that men shouldn't cry thing showed up Victorian era. Before then, that was perfectly normal. And probably should come back, honestly. All these people holding it in, it's not healthy.
No, it's not good for you.
No.
Giovanni pointed out that Pope Sixtus had given up all his plate and jewels for the cause. Because we looked at Pope Sixtus before, and he is quite a holy pope.
Yes.
And that's not a tautology, as you think it ought to be. The two don't necessarily go together. But we did look at Pope Sixtus in the Patsy conspiracy, where he was advocating for the murder of Lorenzo the Magnificent. Yeah. So when we say a holy pope, not that holy, but holier than most. So Giovanni was saying the Pope was willing to convert luxuries into cash, and he was also willing to convert sin into cash for the cause. So Giovanni was authorised to sell indulgences, printed by Caxton, of course. Pope Innocent, when he took over, continued to heap appointments on Giovanni, and Edward continued to heap appointments on him, including becoming Archdeacon of London.
Wow.
Busy man.
He must have been charismatic. He must have been one of those that he comes into the room and everybody's dazzled.
Yes.
You'd have to be. I wish I was like that. I come into the room and nobody notices.
We sort of sidle in. We come into our own podcast like that. Oh, hello, it's us.
Hi. Is anybody listening?
Amazing that there are.
It really is. We get so sidetracked. Although we do edit a lot of that out.
Yeah.
We make ourselves sound great.
Yeah, people have no idea how much I stutter and get things wrong because of the wonders of editing. In the 1480s, Giovanni became tutor to King Edward's children, which sounds like an uncomplicated statement, except that the source I read had tutor in inverted commas for no apparent reason, and it says it's not known what was meant by King Edward's children. I think, right, don't know, is that complicated? I don't know whether they're being natural or otherwise, yeah.
But the quote-unquote tutor...
Yes.
It does not sound good when you put it by children.
Oh, I don't think there's anything like that going on, but it's just odd. I thought there's no explanation as to why it was in inverted commas.
I wasn't thinking the way you were thinking.
Oh, right, okay.
I was thinking he's just there to entertain them or be dumb. I didn't think the other way.
Right. I didn't see him as a clown.
Well done, Lucy. He is a priest. Oh, goodness.
Sorry.
Oh, we're going to get so many comments.
I've dragged us back into the dark web, haven't I?
I was just thinking of, you know how you used to get those substitute teachers that didn't know what your curriculum was? So they just let you do whatever for the day? That's what I meant by tutor.
Yes. Whoops. Well, we know that he must have done something in the tutoring line, because when Edward died, Giovanni was still owed several months' back pay. So that's royalty for you, isn't it?
Yes. That's a lot of nobility.
Yeah. When young Edward V and his brother were incarcerated into the Tower, Giovanni obviously didn't have access to him, and he stated in his Epithalamium, which is a poem or song celebrating marriage, that I'll talk about in a minute, that, uncategorically, the boys were murdered on the order of their uncle Richard. That was his opinion.
I'm still of that opinion.
I lean towards it, but I'm very happy to be told otherwise, although, what's her name, Philippa Langley? Is she a Philippa? Who's found those documents, and there's a documentary on YouTube about it. I'm not convinced.
And what's the name of the documentary?
Something like completely solving the mystery of the Princess in the Tower or something.
I love those. You know they're wrong.
Yes.
Right at the beginning.
I was going to put a thing on Facebook about what I thought of watching that, but I won't do it now because it'll take hours. I wasn't impressed.
We should watch it together and then make our own critical comments, pause it every once in a while and be like, what the heck?
That's a good idea. We'll do that. Because I've had several messages asking what we thought about this, and I've said I'm not convinced.
We've got to do that then.
Right, okay, we'll do that. Giovanni gained no extra appointments in Richard's reign, and that wasn't just because he called Richard a murderer, since the Epithalamium, wasn't published until 1486. We just don't know. We don't know why Richard didn't rate him much. I suppose he had his own people. And when new monarchs come, they've got their own people that need...
Maybe he had actually written it and there were rumors.
Possibly.
And Richard heard those rumors.
Yeah.
But then he'd be dead.
Yeah. The epithalamium celebrated Henry and Elizabeth's marriage, even though he'd obviously written it before it was even on the cards. So...
It's the usual. I need a patron.
Yeah.
I wrote this a while ago. Just rebrand it.
Yes, scribble out
the...
Richard and Anne and put in Henry and Elizabeth.
Yeah. It's like you guys singing God Save the King, because that was written for a French king.
Yes.
Oops. No, it's ours. Okay.
We're all one big happy family.
They really are.
Yes. I don't think they're happy. Anyway, talking of happiness, Henry and Elizabeth's marriage and the epithalamium. Quote, "How oft with needle, when denied the pen, has she on canvas traced the blessed name of Henry," unquote. So this is a picture of Elizabeth, the lovelorn woman, yearning for the man who at that time she wouldn't even have met when this was written. But a little poetic license, perhaps.
I'm not so sure. The reason I bring that up is because in one of the books I've been reading, they were talking about how when she was young, Edward IV proposed that Henry marry her to bring him into the fold so he was no longer a threat.
Yeah.
And she would have known about that.
Not sure she'd have been embroidering his name on a bit of canvas, though, probably.
Though, would they? Because think of all the girls in high school that spend hours writing their name with their boyfriend's last name.
Yeah, boyfriend, not stranger who happens to be somewhere in Brittany. I don't know.
True, but if you think he's going to be your husband, maybe you do stuff like that. Although then she'd have one for every husband that was proposed for her, and there were quite a lot.
There were lots, yes.
You find this one embroidery that just has her name with a whack load of last names.
It's like it's an embroidery, not a tattoo, really, isn't it? But also, given that we are in Henry's reign now, it would be expedient for him to say that Richard had killed the boys. So it might not have been his opinion at the time. It might be his belated opinion. Who knows?
Right.
Giovanni, as Archdeacon of London, was one of those who petitioned for this marriage, since, as with many, many royal marriages, it needed a papal bull before it could go ahead. Probably all royal marriages, I should think. As we know, Henry generally favoured those who had roughed it with him in Brittany, so the only way to gain royal favour was via a royal favourite. And Giovanni's royal favourite of choice was Richard Fox.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah, he obviously shopped around and thought, I'm going to have you.
You.
And he presented a volume of his writings, including the epithalamium, and a couple of epigrams on Arthur's birth. And the king obviously got to see these since he wrote to the Pope saying how good they were. Probably better than Bernard André's, and considerably shorter. And Giovanni also sent Margaret Beaufort a liturgical text, which also went down very well.
Oh, I can imagine.
I was wondering if she got someone else to read it for her.
While she was gambling. Oh, I really would like to go back and do an addendum to hers, because reading the other books, the amount of wine that she dragged everywhere was insane. It was hilarious. In one episode where they're talking about her moving from Woking to her London episode, she had to pay out extra money because she brought with her a ton of wine.
So she's got excess baggage.
Yes.
Of wine.
She's paying for excess of wine. 1 ton of it. Not a lot, like a ton as in an undefined, but an actual...
ton as in a barrel, T-U-N.
T-O-N, 1 ton, the weight.
Oh, T-O-N. Ooh.
Yes. It took 8 carriages or 8 carts to bring in her wine.
That can't have been just for her. She'd have been dead.
I hope not. But everywhere it's mentioned. And because it's mentioned so often in all these little snippets that I'm reading, you start thinking they're not mentioning it for anybody else. So it had to have been unusual.
I've not come across anybody bringing their wine.
No, she does it everywhere. And there's like 4 kinds that are her favorite at random times during the year.
Right. Blue Nun, Liebfrau milk.
It's hilarious. The more I'm reading that, I'm like, she must have been drunk all the time.
Maybe that's what made her bearable. That's why we keep hearing about Elizabeth didn't dislike her as much as everyone seems to think. This ferocious mother.
Fun to be around.
She must have been a real laugh. Unless she was an aggressive drunk, I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because she was also like constantly telling people to be more gentle with children.
Nice.
Which doesn't sound like an aggressive person. So you're the happy drunk. You're the happy gentle drunk. But we're missing that in her episode. It's just such a big change in the way I feel about her or see her to know that she was dragging that much wine everywhere.
Oh, well, we got it in this episode now. So.
Yes.
We've forgotten about Giovanni.
Sorry. Back to Giovanni.
1488, Giovanni was meant to be one of the envoys. And we've already seen Richard Edgecombe and Christopher Urswick, who went out to try and broker peace between France and Brittany. Mm-hmm. But he was suffering from gout, so he couldn't go.
Ooh.
But 2 months later, when Charles VIII decided he couldn't be doing with all this, and since he wanted to go and claim Naples, Giovanni must have been sufficiently recovered to meet the French envoys in Calais as head of the English delegation. And this turned into something of a slanging match. And a few months later, Giovanni was part of an incident that we came across in Bernard André's episode. Do you remember there was the poem off, the sort of rap battle with poems?
Yeah, Yes, we were talking about that still occurring in Aquitaine.
Ah, right. The French legation came to England to continue these peace talks, and it just descended into insults, like the last time.
Oh, that's so not a good way to go.
Not for peace talks.
No.
The head of the French was a man called Robert Gagin, and he was so annoyed at how these talks were going that he wrote an insulting poem. And I wrote in André's episode, quote, with the Pope's legate wading in, I'm quoting myself now, this is strange, quote,
we're really popular then.
It's getting very incestuous. Quote, with the Pope's legate waving in with a witty rejoinder about sheep, unquote. And Giovanni was the Pope's legate with the witty rejoinder about sheep.
Oh.
And I then continued in André's episode, quote, a royal secretary joining in with a galling jest in that marvellous manner of his, unquote. And the royal secretary was Richard Fox. So, it's probably him.
Wait, so they were having a rap battle? Richard Fox was having a rap battle?
Richard Fox, Giovanni, Gigli, and the French, yeah.
Wow. I can't see Richard doing that. He's probably looking at them like, oh, my goodness.
Yes.
I can't believe this is happening.
Well, yeah, we've mentioned before that André went into the poem wars in much more detail than he did about Bosworth or Stoke. He was thinking, at last, something I understand. 1489, Giovanni gave up his job as collector, and Adriano Castellesi took over.
Castellesi.
And the switchover wasn't immediate, though, since apparently Giovanni had to send a family member to the Pope to explain the shortfall in the money due to the treasury during his time as collector.
Uh-oh.
He blamed gout. He said he hadn't been able to keep an eye on things in person because of his gout.
Ah.
But it was quite a substantial sum. I don't know the exact amount, but it was a lot of money.
Gout's expensive. It's all those treatments that don't work.
Yes.
Nobody told me just to eat more vegetables.
Yes. Don't you know how much it costs to just live entirely on red wine and venison? Well, somebody commented that Giovanni was born to spend money, not to accumulate it. So it does sound as if he might have been guilty of this.
You're embezzling. That is the right term, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to sue, is he?
Yeah.
All must have been explained and forgiven since Henry nominated Giovanni as his resident orator in the court of Rome.
Ooh.
That's an interesting job, isn't it? Giovanni only got as far as Lyon before he was crippled by gout again. But he was there to give Henry's obedience to the new Pope, Alexander VI, which must have been a treat for all concerned, I should imagine. And he was also prominent in the drawing up of a document to give to the Pope requesting the canonisation of Henry VI.
Is this the first, the second, or the third or fourth time?
I'm not sure, but we do know that Henry VII was very keen on the idea, because...
Yes, and every pope said no.
But it doesn't do your lineage any harm to have a saint in it, does it?
Yes.
A Lancastrian saint. In April 1497, Giovanni was appointed Bishop of Worcester by Alexander VI. He never ever went there, but they never do.
Of course.
But in his defence, he did die in August of that year.
Mm.
Henry VII had written to the Pope asking if there was any chance for a red hat for Giovanni, and this was backed up by Ludovico and Ascanio Sforza, old friends of the Patreon episodes.
So he has... Yeah.
Tentacles everywhere.
Wow. Yeah.
But who knows if he'd got it if he lived. I mean, it's a pity because it was his life's ambition, but he died on August the 25th. The cause of death was recorded as gout.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's not pleasant.
No, horrible, horrible. His cousin Silvestro, and more on him next time, commissioned an elaborate tomb in the English hospice in Rome, and Giovanni was buried in a pair of gloves that he'd borrowed from the English hospice. Apparently they were quite miffed about this.
Those are our
yes,
gloves.
so he's going down, he's still got the gloves on. Can someone get those gloves off, please? No, they're filling it in. Don't let them fill it in. He's got the gloves on. So that is the beloved life of Giovanni Gigli. So,
wow, that's cool.
yeah, it's another one of these people who, given so many jobs, he can't possibly have done them, or if any of them.
No.
Apart from getting the money that he shouldn't have done. Yes. Thank you for listening, and next time it's his cousin Silvestro.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.